This is not just another Tuesday. This is a turning point in how politics, entertainment, and public opinion collide in real time. We are watching stories unfold that touch every corner of life, from the way our leaders operate to how Hollywood stars handle their scandals and the way social media lights up every second of the day with reactions, disbelief, and outrage. Now, the first big headline we need to start with is one that has been dominating conversations since early this morning, and it involves a stunning development that nobody saw coming. Politicians, business leaders, and media outlets are scrambling to respond, and the public is left reeling, asking how could this even happen? The shockwaves are not just being felt here at home, but internationally, with allies and critics all weighing in. The situation is fluid. It is developing fast, and it is raising major questions about accountability, responsibility, and the future of leadership. Now imagine waking up on a regular weekday morning thinking you are about to head to work or school or run errands, and suddenly your phone explodes with notifications from every major news outlet blasting the same headline across the screen. It is that kind of day today, a day when everything changes in just a matter of hours. The initial reactions were pure disbelief. People were double-checking to make sure the reports were real. The hashtag started trending instantly, and within minutes, the story was the #1 topic. Across every platform, from X to TikTok to Instagram Reels, and even the old-fashioned cable news broadcasts. The collective gasp was almost audible across the country as people scrambled to understand the full scope of what was unfolding as more details started to pour in. The scope of the situation became clearer, and with clarity came outrage. Supporters and critics alike found themselves asking tough questions, and the debate only got hotter from there. Leaders who once seemed untouchable are now facing a barrage of criticism, and those who used to stand behind them are suddenly going quiet, or even turning against them. The media is circling like sharks, sensing that this is not just a story of the day, but perhaps the story of the year, and maybe even the story that will define an entire era. But while politics is rocking from this revelation, we also have to talk about the entertainment industry, because it too is facing its own reckoning. Scandals that once might have been brushed under the rug are now being dragged into the daylight, and some of the biggest names in Hollywood are right at the center of the storm. What makes this fascinating is how both worlds, politics and Hollywood, are mirroring each other with themes of betrayal, secrecy, exposure, and the collapse of carefully managed public images. It is a reminder that no matter how powerful or glamorous someone may seem, the truth has a way of catching up. And when it does, it can come crashing down in spectacular fashion now. As we peel back the layers of today's main story, there are key moments that deserve special attention. First, the leaked documents that set everything in motion. Without those leaks, the public would still be in the dark. But now that they are out, there is no going back. The documents paint a picture that is not only damaging, but deeply embarrassing for those involved. It is not just the content, but the way it was hidden. The secrecy, the spin, and the deliberate attempts to keep it all under wraps, and that is where the outrage truly begins. People can handle mistakes. What they cannot handle is being lied to repeatedly and intentionally, and when the trust is broken in such a dramatic way, it sparks a backlash that no amount of PR spin can fix. This is exactly what we are seeing today. A full-scale meltdown in real time that is leaving reputations shredded and futures uncertain. Critics are already calling for resignations, for investigations, for accountability, measures that go far beyond press statements or apologies. Meanwhile, supporters are trying desperately to defend, but the ground beneath them is crumbling fast. The facts are stubborn, they cannot be ignored, and they cannot be explained away. So the question becomes not if there will be fallout, but how severe it will be and how far it will reach. Because scandals of this magnitude rarely stay contained. They spread like wildfire, igniting everything in their path and drawing in players who, at first, seemed far removed, but eventually find themselves implicated or at least forced to pick a side. The ripple effect is only just beginning, and the coming days are going to be critical for understanding the full scope of the damage in moments. Like this, history has shown us that silence can be as damaging as the scandal itself. The longer leaders remain quiet or evasive, the more the public assumes the worst. And today is no different already. Critics are blasting the lack of clear communication and demanding answers. The press conferences that have been held so far have done little to calm the outrage. Instead, they have only fueled more speculation and suspicion, because half answers and vague statements only confirm what people already suspect, that the truth is worse than what is being admitted. And so the storm rages on. The story develops by the minute, and the divide between what insiders know and what the public demands grows wider. It is in this gap that the media thrives, filling in the blanks with speculation, analysis, and endless commentary, some of it insightful, some of it reckless, but all of it feeding into the frenzy and keeping the spotlight burning, white hot on those at the center of the storm. This is not a one-day story. This is going to stretch out over weeks, if not months, and every new detail, every leaked message, every shifting alliance is going to fuel it further. What makes this even more explosive is how it connects to broader themes that are already simmering beneath the surface: distrust of institutions, frustration with elites, anger at hypocrisy. These are not new feelings, but they are now finding a powerful outlet in this scandal, and that makes it even more dangerous for those involved, because it is not just about what they did or did not do. It is about what they represent. And once a figure becomes a symbol of everything people resent, it is almost impossible to recover from that stigma. We have seen careers end overnight. We have seen legacies erased, and we have seen entire movements collapse under the weight of scandals like this one. And as history repeats itself, we are reminded again that power is fragile. Image is fragile, and once broken, it may never be repaired fully. The next step in this unfolding drama will be critical. Will there be resignations? Will there be full disclosures? Will there be a desperate attempt to shift blame or create distractions? These are the moves we are watching closely, and each one will shape not only the outcome of this scandal, but the narrative of leadership, trust, and accountability in this country for years to come. And if you think this is just politics, think again, because Hollywood is right there in the thick of it too, facing its own day of reckoning. Stories that once seemed like gossip are now headline news, and some of the most beloved names are finding themselves under scrutiny. Allegations are piling up, lawsuits are being filed, and the carefully managed image of certain stars is beginning to crack under the weight of reality. It is no coincidence that these stories are breaking at the same time. There is a cultural shift happening. People are no longer willing to turn a blind eye or excuse behavior. Simply because someone is famous or powerful, accountability is becoming the new expectation, and those who fail to meet it are finding themselves exposed in brutal and public fashion. As the day unfolds, the weight of the scandal only grows heavier and more complicated. New revelations are emerging at a rapid pace, and the headlines that seemed shocking this morning are now being eclipsed by even bigger bombshells. It is one of those rare moments when reality feels stranger than fiction, and people are glued to their phones, desperate to keep up with every twist and turn. Insiders are leaking details left and right. Anonymous sources are painting a vivid picture of backroom deals, secret conversations, and power plays that were never meant to see the light of day, and the public is eating it up. But beneath the fascination is a deeper sense of anger and betrayal, because what is being revealed is not just scandalous, it is systemic. It shows how those in power operate behind closed doors, and it is ugly, messy, and infuriating to anyone who believed in transparency or integrity. The ripple effects are spreading far and wide as more names get pulled into the chaos. People who thought they were safe are suddenly on the defensive. Connections that once looked harmless are now being scrutinized, and careers that seemed untouchable are suddenly at risk. The dominoes are falling, and nobody knows who will be the next to go down. Meanwhile, the public conversation is taking on a life of its own. The hashtags are multiplying. The memes are being created at lightning speed. And the commentary from influencers, journalists, and everyday people is shaping the narrative. Just as much as the official statements, in many ways, the court of public opinion is already delivering its verdict long before any formal investigation or legal proceeding has concluded, and the verdict is brutal. What makes this scandal so explosive is not only the content of the revelations, but the timing. They come at a moment when trust in institutions is already at rock bottom, when people are fed up with hypocrisy, and when the appetite for accountability is stronger than ever. So instead of being dismissed as just another controversy, this one has all the ingredients to become a defining cultural moment. The parallels to past scandals are unavoidable, but this one feels different. It feels bigger, more consequential, and more dangerous. For those at the center, in part because the media environment has changed so dramatically, everything is amplified, everything spreads instantly, and nothing can be hidden for long. The days of carefully controlling a narrative are over. Once something leaks, it is out there forever, dissected, debated, and shared millions of times. And that permanence makes it harder than ever for anyone to recover from a major scandal. The impact on Hollywood is especially fascinating because the industry has long thrived on image management. Yet here we are watching some of the most polished brands unravel in real time. Carefully crafted personas are being shattered by leaked texts, emails, and behind-the-scenes accounts, and fans are grappling with the uncomfortable reality that the stars they idolized may not be who they thought they were. The backlash has been swift and unforgiving. Brands are cutting ties, projects are being put on hold, and social media is flooded with calls for boycotts and accountability. The very people who once had the world at their feet are now scrambling to salvage what they can. But in most cases, the damage is already done, and it is irreversible. What makes it worse is how interconnected all of this has become. Politics, media, entertainment business. It is all colliding in one giant scandal that refuses to be contained. Each new revelation connects to something else, exposing a web of influence, corruption, and manipulation that feels like it has been hiding in plain sight for years. And the more we learn, the clearer it becomes that this is not just about one person or one mistake. It is about an entire system that rewards secrecy, punishes honesty, and protects those at the top until the very moment it all comes crashing down. In that sense, this moment feels bigger than any single headline. It feels like a turning point, a chance for the public to finally say, enough is enough, and demand real change. Whether that change will actually come remains to be seen. History tells us that scandals often fade with time replaced by new distractions, but this one has such momentum, such raw outrage behind it, that it may actually lead to meaningful consequences. Leaders are being forced to respond whether they like it or not, and every word they say is being picked apart. Every move analyzed, every silence noted in the court of public opinion. Silence is guilt, evasion is guilt, and half-truths are guilt. Only full transparency will satisfy the public now, and even then. It may not be enough because trust once broken is nearly impossible to rebuild. As this scandal unfolds, we are also seeing the rise of unlikely voices. People who were once on the margins of the conversation are suddenly center stage commentators. Influencers, whistleblowers, even everyday citizens who happen to stumble upon key pieces of information are becoming major players in shaping the narrative. It is a reminder that in the digital age, power is not just held by the elites, but also by the people who control the conversation online. And that shift is part of what makes this moment so dangerous for those at the top. They cannot control the narrative anymore, and every attempt to do so only backfires, drawing even more attention to the very things they are trying to hide. The legal implications of this scandal are also massive. Investigations are already being discussed, subpoenas are being drafted, and lawyers are preparing for what could be months or even years of legal battles. The stakes could not be higher, not just reputationally, but financially and legally as well. And the uncertainty is causing chaos in every sector tied to this story, from Wall Street to Hollywood studios. Everyone is bracing for impact because the fallout is not going to be limited to the individuals directly involved. It is going to ripple out and affect investors, employees, fans, and entire industries caught in the blast radius. One of the most striking aspects of this unfolding drama is how quickly alliances shift. People who once stood shoulder to shoulder are now pointing fingers, distancing themselves, and rewriting history to save their own skin. The betrayals are piling up, and every time someone flips, it creates a new headline. A new layer to the story and a new wave of outrage. Betrayal is a theme that cuts deep. It resonates with people because it is personal. It is not just about politics or business or Hollywood. It is about broken trust and broken relationships, and that is why the public reacts so strongly to it. Betrayal feels universal and unforgivable, and when it happens on a massive public stage, it creates a storm of outrage that is almost impossible to contain. What makes this moment even more explosive is the way social media has democratized the narrative in the past. Scandals were filtered through traditional media outlets, which meant there was some control over how the story was told. But now the story is being told by millions of people simultaneously, in real time, with no filter, no pause button, and no gatekeepers. That raw, unfiltered reaction is what gives this scandal its power. Because once the people take ownership of a story, it is no longer just about the facts. It is about how it feels, and right now it feels like betrayal, hypocrisy, arrogance, and corruption all rolled into one. It feels like the system is rigged, and that feeling is what keeps the outrage burning hot and spreading wide. Every major influencer, commentator, and outlet is weighing in, and their takes are shaping the narrative just as much as the facts are. Some are using humor, memes, and satire to cut through the noise. Others are offering deep analysis, drawing connections, and predicting outcomes together. They are creating a chorus of voices that is impossible to ignore, and impossible for the people at the center of the scandal to counter or control. The momentum is simply too great. And that momentum is what makes this story different from the countless scandals that came before. The escalation of this scandal has now reached a level that even seasoned insiders are calling unprecedented. Every hour brings another shocking twist, and the story that began as a single revelation has snowballed into a sprawling saga with multiple players, industries, and institutions entangled in its web. It is no longer just about what happened, but about what it means. The symbolism is as powerful as the facts, and people everywhere are interpreting it as proof of something larger about corruption, power, and the fragility of trust. This is why the outrage refuses to die down, and why the momentum keeps building like a tidal wave. Politicians are scrambling to protect their images, but every statement they make is falling flat. Hollywood stars are retreating from the spotlight, but silence only fuels speculation and suspicion. Business leaders are trying to reassure investors, but the markets can smell instability and the numbers are reflecting it. It feels as though the entire establishment is wobbling, and nobody knows where the cracks will lead. The media is thriving on the chaos, pumping out updates by the minute, dissecting every phrase in every leaked message and offering endless commentary. The result is an information storm that leaves the public both overwhelmed and addicted, unable to look away, and unwilling to let the scandal fade into the background. This intensity is magnified by the way ordinary people are participating in the narrative. They are not just consuming the news, they are creating it, reshaping it, remixing it, and pushing it further into the mainstream. Every TikTok video, every meme, every tweet adds fuel to the fire and ensures that the story stays alive longer than traditional scandals ever could. At the center of this hurricane are the figures who once projected untouchable power, but who now look diminished, cornered, and desperate. The contrast is stark. The images of them smiling at red carpet premieres or giving confident speeches are being played side by side with their current appearances, where every word seems measured, every glance suspicious, and every silence deafening. It is a visual reminder of how quickly power can evaporate once trust is gone, and once the public turns against you. The fallout is already devastating. Contracts canceled, partnerships dissolved, reputations shredded in real time. The financial losses are enormous, but the reputational losses are even worse because those cannot be repaired with money. Once the public believes you are dishonest or corrupt, there is almost no path to redemption, at least not in the short term. Some will try to stage comebacks years from now, but history shows that most will fail, and the stain of scandal will follow them forever. As we move deeper into this unfolding drama, it is clear that the legal dimension is about to explode. Prosecutors are circling, lawmakers are calling for hearings, and lawyers are preparing to wage war. The documents and messages already leaked are damaging, but insiders say they are only the tip of the iceberg. What lies beneath could be even more catastrophic, and the possibility of criminal charges is no longer unthinkable. In fact, it feels inevitable to many observers. The thought of high-profile figures facing legal consequences adds another layer of fascination and intensity to the scandal. People want accountability. They want to see justice served, and they are not willing to accept half measures anymore. This hunger for accountability is reshaping the conversation in real time and forcing leaders to make choices they never imagined they would have to make. Some are considering resignations, others are planning elaborate PR strategies, and still others are betting on riding out the storm, hoping that fatigue will eventually set in. But the energy online suggests otherwise. The anger is too raw, too widespread, and too relentless to simply fade away. One of the most fascinating aspects of this moment is the way betrayal keeps resurfacing as the central theme. Every new revelation seems to involve someone betraying someone else, whether it is an ally turning on a former friend, a trusted advisor leaking damaging information, or a public figure breaking the trust of millions of supporters. Betrayal is the thread tying it all together, and it is what makes the outrage so personal. People do not just feel like spectators, they feel like participants who have been lied to, manipulated, and used, and that emotional connection ensures that the scandal cuts deeper than most. The ripple effects on Hollywood cannot be overstated. Studios are delaying projects, rewriting contracts, and in some cases cutting actors loose entirely. Fans are turning away in droves, disillusioned by the behavior of stars they once admired, and the financial implications are staggering. Streaming services are scrambling to adjust programming, to avoid backlash. Advertisers are pulling campaigns, and entire franchises are at risk of collapsing under the weight of scandal. It is chaos in an industry that thrives on control and image, and that chaos is spreading fast. The same themes are playing out in politics, where leaders are suddenly vulnerable to challengers and where public trust is eroding. At lightning speed, opponents are seizing the opportunity to score points, and allies are distancing themselves as quickly as possible. The political calculations are shifting daily, and the once stable ground of incumbency looks shaky and uncertain as this scandal barrels forward. There is also a growing sense that we are witnessing something historic, a moment that will be studied for years as an example of how quickly power can collapse in the modern media age. The speed, the intensity, and the scope are unlike anything we have seen before, and it raises profound questions about the nature of leadership accountability and survival. In a world where every secret is only one leak away from exposure, for the public there is a strange mix of emotions: fascination, anger, exhaustion, and even a sense of empowerment. Because this moment feels like proof that the powerful are not immune, that they can be held accountable, that the truth can still break through. No matter how carefully it is buried, it is a reminder that transparency is possible, but only when people refuse to look away. Only when outrage is sustained, and only when the demand for accountability drowns out the noise of excuses and distractions. In the end, what we are witnessing is more than just a scandal. It is a reckoning. It is a test of how resilient our institutions are, how honest our leaders can be, and how much the public is willing to tolerate before finally saying enough. This story is not just about the individuals at the center. It is about us, about our values, our expectations, and our willingness to demand better from those who claim to lead us. The next chapter is already unfolding, and it promises to be even more dramatic than what we have seen so far, with hearings, investigations, and legal battles looming. The stakes could not be higher, and the entire world is watching every move, every word. Every revelation will shape the outcome and the legacy of this scandal for years to come. This is not just another news cycle. This is history in the making. As we come to the end of today's unfolding drama, it is clear that we are witnessing more than just a passing scandal. This is a cultural earthquake shaking the foundations of politics, business, and entertainment all at once, and the aftershocks will be felt for weeks, months, and perhaps even years. The revelations that began as whispers have now become roars. The secrets that were hidden are now broadcast for the world to see, and the powerful figures at the center of it all find themselves stripped of the control they once relied upon to protect their image and their influence. This moment is not just about them, it is about the collective realization that accountability cannot be postponed forever, that no matter how carefully reputations are managed or how much wealth and power someone may hold, the truth has a way of forcing itself into the light. The outrage we see today is not fleeting, it is rooted in a deeper frustration that has been building for years, and it is why this story has struck such a raw nerve with so many people. The betrayals, the hypocrisy, the arrogance, it all feeds into a narrative that the public can no longer ignore and no longer excuse. And so the question moving forward is not whether this scandal will fade away, but how far it will go, how many more figures will be pulled into its orbit, and how lasting its impact will be. The lesson here is stark and undeniable: power is fragile, trust is fragile, and once shattered, they are nearly impossible to rebuild. What comes next will define not only the careers of those involved, but the faith of the people in the systems that govern them, and the story is far from over.